what is and what isn't the opportunity in blockchain? So we heard from Kurt on kind of the history, and a lot of folks ask questions because really, why are most people here in the room today? To find out the opportunities to make money and to grow a business using this technology. So first, what do the headlines say is the opportunity? We see here, Andreessen Horowitz raising a huge fund. Andreessen Horowitz putting, $100 million into a company. Lots and lots of money going into the same projects by, pretty much all the VCs. And what do these things all have in common? They're decentralized and they're tokens. And also, if you try to actually understand what the value proposition is, you'll probably never get a straight answer. This is where, between the tokens themselves and the companies that are using these tokens, that's probably 99% plus of all capital in the crypto and blockchain space today. We see DeFi, decentralized exchanges, decentralized social, decentralized everything. And yeah, what they all have in common is that decentralization and tokens are at the root of all of this. Not that there hasn't been distribution or decentralization in technology or tokens for many, many years, even before blockchain, but specifically decentralization as defined as being able to exist outside of what law and what governments want. So something is decentralized according to most in crypto if the thing can resist a law or a government trying to, say, hey, what you're doing is not legal. That's sufficiently decentralized. And a lot of the time and effort and the capital is going into trying to make things more decentralized. And then tokens. Not, an authenticator token. These are specifically unregistered securities that are typically neutral or negative sum games where people that found it and get in early make a lot of money, and then those, at the end are kind of left holding the bag, as we've seen with the recent crypto market crash. So the value delivered by the decentralization of these networks has been secondary to capitalizing on the fundraising potential of it. So in general, if there's a huge economic incentive for something to happen, people are going to convince themselves of that belief whether they actually believe it or not. There's definitely a lot of founders and investors that legitimately believe in decentralization, but for every one of them, there's at least 10 that opportunistically have followed along because that's where the easiest money has been made in investing history. And it's hard to blame them. If you were early to Bitcoin and Ethereum over the last 10 years, you made more money than any other possible way of making money in the history of the world. It's pretty big, so it's understandable why people are following on from that. The question is that the opportunity today, or is that the opportunity a decade ago? And I would also encourage everyone to ask themselves, even if you could make money that way, should you? So Helium is a really great example of this, which, they've raised hundreds of millions of dollars directly from venture capitalists, but they've also, the founders and the early people involved have made a lot more money by their HNT token appreciating to many, many billions of dollars. And this is all capitalizing on this decentralization token crypto hype. But what we see recently is basically, while Helium itself could be a really great business, crypto decentralization tokens are not really a meaningful part of it at all, as evidenced by the recent news that we saw just a few days ago. So raise your hand today if you've used a decentralized product today. Okay, we have some hands. Who has used a decentralized product today where the reason for doing so was to make it harder for a government to be able to regulate what you're doing? We got a few people. I guess we are recording, so we could do the imaginary hands. What we generally see today from these decentralized products is just a really, really poor user experience. Hacks happening all the time, and typically some type of glorified Ponzi scheme at the core of it, which is the thing that is able to finance and make this whole train keep running. So what long-term value can blockchain uniquely deliver? Because obviously I'm not a bear on blockchain or we wouldn't all be here today. So at Unbounded Capital, despite how pessimistic we are on the broader crypto and blockchain world, we are incredibly, incredibly bullish on founders, many of which are here today, leveraging scalable blockchains to solve real problems in the world. And I'm not going to, try to muddle up pitching these different companies or talking about them, because you'll have the opportunity to hear from them yourselves today. But what do they all have in common? They're simple. You don't have to, understand how to code. You don't have to understand a smart contract. You don't have to understand Solidity. You don't have to understand why you need some new layer 2 ZK snark to be able to use the thing. It's solving a problem and, in many cases, obscuring how blockchain is used from the end user. And they're creating real value. So it's not about, oh, this value will come in the future, or this value will accrue to the token holders. No, they have customers that are paying or choosing to use this product or service because it's making their lives better. And then when you think about the types of founders that get involved with token projects versus build real companies, there's typically a strong differentiation between the short-term and long-term nature of these founders. So today, if you wanted to turn, hustle and the ability to present well into lots of money into your pocket, you should probably start something in DeFi on Ethereum or Solana. The easiest way to do that, you can, raise, even in this bear market, still a relatively large amount of crypto VC relative to other market opportunities and venture, and you can get liquidity for yourself and your family potentially within a year. So with the opportunity to do that versus build a real company, many people are choosing to do that, and the people that are choosing to do that are going to be a lot more short-term oriented. And even those that might have been long-term oriented in the past, and maybe they already have a company and they're choosing to add a token to the company. This is also quite common. So now they're left with a choice of, should I create long-term shareholder value, or should I pump this token and make a lot of money soon? What do you think happens? I haven't seen a single example of a company that has a token where it's, there's definitely some tokens where it's not kind of a security where it goes up and down and actually is used. But for companies that have a tokens where the token basically appreciates as more people use it, these founders are typically more focused on that token appreciating than actually building the right product or business. So the areas that we're really excited about all come from micropayments. It comes from this penny that is now in my pocket. And for anyone, probably didn't get too many signups since we last did the thing, but just to demonstrate it again, and I'm going to keep doing this so everyone eventually, by the time they leave, gets hand cash. Anyone that clicked the QR code to sign up just got another penny instantly. You could check your phone. So all the companies you're going to hear from today, and we think really all the companies that are going to leverage blockchain are going to take advantage of this micropayment in some way to send a penny anywhere. And most of the pennies that will be sent will not just be because someone wants to send someone a penny in terms of a crypto payment, but it will be used for some type of data service. So while perhaps in the near term, we are more bullish on people using blockchain for, say, payments within games and payments for fintech, we think long term that payments to keep data secure is going to dwarf effectively all other use cases for micropayments in terms of dollars moved through the system and total volume of data. And this is going to make a wildly efficient new internet. So if you look at the way the internet is structured today, you have data in lots and lots of disparate databases. Where we think the opportunity is taking that data that's scattered everywhere and putting a lot of it in a single centralized place. Yes, blockchain's key value is not decentralization, but centralization. Centralizing information all in one place so it's easy to access and much easier to secure. So these are some of the logos of our portfolio companies and companies that are leveraging this today, many of which you're going to hear from today. So who here has ever tried to read an article on a service they're not subscribed to and then gives up because it's too complicated? Many people. Even if you have effectively an unlimited budget for reading, say Wall Street Journal, Institutional Investor, there's going to be some inevitably that a friend sends you that you're not subscribed to currently. And right now the user experience is, hey, I now, likely on my phone or my iPad, not even my computer, have to go through this complicated process, create a user login, agree to some type of subscription, give my personal identifying details via credit card. It's a really unsecure and just slow, inefficient process. What we see as not necessarily replacing ads or replacing these types of subscriptions, but presenting a meaningful market alternative is the ability then to, rather than sell your data or sign up for a subscription, to pay as you go and not have to give them any information that they don't need. So for example, you want to read this article in the LA Times? Click a button, pay 10 cents, and it's done. Handcash, who you'll hear from today, already makes that possible. Or Google. Imagine if you're charging a 1/1000th of a penny for each search, or a 1/10 of a cent for each search, rather than just kind of selling your data to Google. There's a lot of possibilities here, and you don't have to be a genius to understand them. This is a new set of business models that's only possible because of an efficient, scalable blockchain. The same way that credit cards and modern technology has allowed for new business models that weren't possible beforehand, when you had to have trust and potentially meet in person to exchange lots of dollars, this is the same. But now, instead of the minimum transaction being $1 or $2, which is what's necessary today with MasterCards and Visas, 20, 25 cents plus 2.5 to 3% per transaction, it's changing that viable transaction to a cent and falling. And something to keep in mind is that what's unique about the Bitcoin SV blockchain is that the transaction fee has gone down about 25x since we started investing into the space. You look at Ethereum, you look at Solana, look at all these other blockchains, transactions are skyrocketing. Not the number of transactions, the transaction costs are skyrocketing, up hundreds of times. In the case of Ethereum, millions, tens of millions of times since the network launched. Where with Bitcoin SV, it's gone down due to the proof of work, proof of stake conversation we don't need to rehash that you just heard from Kurt. So what we expect is that as those costs drive down, you're going to see easier and easier to access content and data all over the world. And then what does the actual investment look like? For anyone that's been in the crypto space for a little bit or heard about it, you've heard of DAOs, you've heard of ICOs, you've heard of decentralized protocols. It becomes really messy, you have no rights, and if they lie to shareholders, which is quite unfortunately common within the crypto and DeFi space, you don't really have any recourse. At Unbounded, we invest in early stage equity. That's it. Companies that are building using the traditional model, which again, we don't think won't use blockchain, but it's very different to have equity as it exists within a legal context on a blockchain versus this new extra legal system that's trying to play one or two steps forward of what the government is able to kind of regulate and enforce. So all of our investments in our fund today look like this, and this is where we think the opportunity is. Not in tokens and not in companies like exchanges, prime brokers, miners that make money off these tokens.